Hello and welcome to Wizards, Warriors, and Words, a fantasy writing advice podcast. I'm Jed Herne, author of Fires of the Dead, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, starting with Rob J. Hayes.
Hey, I'm Rob J. Hayes, author of the Mortal Techniques books. Here's three of them. And hang on. Oh
They're
God,
so
that way. There we go. Camera malfunctions. Anyway, and you can now buy all three books in one big ebook. The heroic age. There's the first Mortal Techniques box set, and it's available now. In fact, it was released today, although not today because you're not going to be listening to this today.
This will come out in 2 days' time from the time of recording.
There you go. Anyway, the heroic age Mortal Techniques box set is available now.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rob. And lastly, Dirk Ashton.
I'm Dirk Ashton, author of the Paternus trilogy. This is the first book, Paternus Rise of Gods. If you don't recognize this cover, it's because all of the rest of them say Paternus. This is the version you would get if you bought on Book Depository or ordered it at a bookstore, that sort of thing. It's the one that's up on Ingram Spark. So that's me.
You have multiple copies. It's like collector's stuff.
I was just going to say, special edition. Nice stuff.
So you guys all need that one too.
Get your full
I've already
set.
got one of them and the hardback. Come on, man.
Three. You need three of them.
So we've got it on audiobook as well. Does that count as having three?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. I've got it
Now
3 times already.
Well, then you need 4.
Damn it, Dirk. Stop changing it. Stop moving the goalposts.
So today's episode, Mike can't join us for it, unfortunately, but he'll be back for it next time. We're going to be talking about...
I've got a pop doll that can sit in for Mike.
Sucks.
Oh, okay. This is news to me.
How about this one? There we go. This can be Mike.
Yeah.
So if you're not watching on YouTube, Rob is holding up a little Funko doll that has like a one-eyed pirate sort of
This is Raph from Full Metal Alchemist.
I haven't seen it.
Cool.
You haven't? Well, there we go then. But come on, man.
I think Mike should be this one though.
Rob is holding. Dirk, describe what you're holding up.
It's a Funko, and it's
is that Spider-Gwen?
Kind of, yeah. It's that Bizarro universe from that line of stuff.
Okay, two radically different versions of Michael R. Fletcher. You go to our YouTube
channel
this one,
if you're
listening to the podcast, and you decide which one is legit. And now Rob's holding up a dog Yeti.
No!
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Avatar: The Last Airbender. Come on, man!
Papa.
You're referring to me that I'm like the one person.
You
who
have
hasn't
like
watched
zero geek cred.
Yeah, leave it to the older dudes to tell the kid about Last Airbender.
Yep, I'm a failure, and I'm aware of it. So today we will be answering a listener question. We had a listener, Tony, reach out to us and ask, when it comes to having book reviews on the back or inside of your book when you publish it, is it necessary? I'm just wondering because I don't really have author friends or anyone to send my book out to get a review on. So not sure if this is something I should try working on and if having these reviews will help my book get more attention. Little more context here. Tony says that they have already written a historical fiction novel, and the book they're talking about is the first book. They're working on a second book, but they're trying to publish their first book right now. Haven't published anything yet, and they're just generally wondering, how do you get reviews on a book before you have sort of established a name for yourself or really had a book put out there in the world? So it's a very different story probably once you've had a couple of books published, which we'll talk about later. But casting your minds back to when you guys were releasing your first books, how did you go about getting reviews for them, if at all? Rob, do you want to?
I didn't.
Dirk? Okay, do you want to start then?
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to I want Rob to go first. I just wanted to clarify that I still don't have any author friends. So go ahead, Rob.
I mean, you say that. But I hit up one of my friends through a review of Never Die to go on the back there, and it's a review by Dirk Ashton.
It's all
so he
true.
must be a friend.
More of an acquaintance.
Anyway, right. So when I was releasing my first trilogy, my debut trilogy, I did not have any author friends. I did not have any blogger friends. I had very few friends in total, to be honest. There was just me and a couple of guys who went down the pub every now and again. Nobody knows them. Nobody knew me. Who cares?
Very Shaun of the Dead-esque.
Yeah. So basically, what I did is I paid for one. I wouldn't recommend it, but there we go. I paid Kirkus Reviews, fairly big website. Well, fairly big.
Very big
website. To give the book a read and review, and it cost me something like 400 quid. And out of their review, I got a single line, which was just basically like, Rob J. Hayes may have a significant genre following sometime in the future.
Very vague praise.
Yeah,
I did exactly the same thing. You know, the common wisdom is don't bother.
Don't.
Now that Rob and I have grown up and we're not children anymore, we don't do that. But yeah, it's not necessary. It's really number one. We know a whole lot of people who sell a crap load of books and never put a blurb inside, outside, anywhere on their books. I do think that there are certain audiences that it helps to give it some legitimacy to have a blurb by a known author or blog site on the front of the cover, on Amazon, and high in the description on Amazon, though I do not feel that it's a necessity. As a first-time author, it's nearly impossible. You can look at who's judging and has been judging the SPFBO. And look at who communicates in the SPFBO group and what bloggers are there. And go to their websites and don't just send them an email. Don't send them a message on Facebook, through Facebook. Go and look at their submission. They all have submission requirements, and look at those. And ask kindly. If they turn it down, don't get grumpy. You really want to screw yourself early on? Be an ass. And if you never want to get blurbs, just be grumpy or be snotty, be snarky. If they do accept it, don't bug them. And especially don't say you've had it for like 3 months. Where's my review? You're not going to get one. Chances are they're either really busy and can't do it. It's not their fault. They're all doing this for free. None of them are getting paid to do this, even on the biggest sites. Or they started to read it and didn't like it, in which case you shouldn't be bothering for that review, right? Because if you piss them off, they might just publish it. And you know, there are bloggers who don't want to trash early on a first person's book. Okay. The other thing you can do, another thing you can do is just wait for a while and wait for some reviews to go up on Amazon and Goodreads. Be sure you get on Goodreads. I know big time, huge selling authors who just use a blurb Goodreads reader, right? It works. Or Amazon reader.
There's some sort of like school of thought, if you will,
that it's better.
The reviews from random Goodreads or random Amazon review are actually better than, you know, reviews from, you know, Dirk Ashton. I mean, nobody knows who Dirk Ashton is, let's be fair. So
or even from Nicholas Eames or Mark Lawrence.
Yeah. But the idea is that it feels like a more genuine, you know, review basically. Whereas if you're getting a review from someone like Mark Lawrence, it might sound a bit like, oh, okay, this person's leveraged some contacts to get them. Whereas if you've got some random Goodreads review that's just like, oh my god, this book was amazing, I absolutely loved it, it feels more genuine, and it's possibly more likely to make people go, oh, okay, I'm like them, so maybe I'll enjoy it.
I think
Yeah,
there's also something to the fact that the Goodreads review person had to go out of their way to write this review. Whereas if you're reaching out to somebody, you know, they might really enjoy the book, but you are the one that had to nudge them into that direction of giving the review. So that might come across with a little bit more effusive praise. One thing with the question, which I think we should just tackle quickly, is this person is saying that their novel is a historical fiction novel. So I don't think any of us have any experience writing historical fiction, as far as I'm aware. So we have maybe
the SPFBO wouldn't do them much good then.
Yes.
Bloggers. They need to find bloggers who read general stuff. I don't think there aren't that many people that blogs that just cover historical fiction, but they'll cover a wide range.
Well, I'm not too sure about that, because I think if you're writing in, like, I don't know, a very popular historical fiction period, I don't exactly know how it works for it, but let's say you're writing in Renaissance Italy, right? You may find success by finding blogs that talk about Renaissance Italy times and have a big audience. And they might not necessarily be book review blogs, but they might just be very interested in that period. And you might actually be very well off submitting to them, because they probably won't get a lot of book requests. And they have a very niche, but possibly large audience. So again, this is just all talking out of my ass. I don't know anything about historical fiction. But yeah, perhaps you know some blogs out there which
thinking outside the box and searching around can go really, really far. I know we're not going to have a really long episode here. Just real quickly, getting blurbs from authors. I mean, personally, it makes me feel good, and I do think it lends a sense of credibility that my books do have some pretty well-known author blurbs, and it gives me a sense of comfort. And I have had people say, "Oh, you know, this name," when they look at the cover, if I'm at an event or something. And I won't go into the long thing, but I only approach authors that I have had some interaction with.
Oh God, yeah, never cold call
on social media or on at a conference, at a con. And that's one good reason to go to some of the cons, even if it's a big fun one like Dragon Con, and just meet and shake hands with some people. And sometimes you can ask them right there once you've talked to them a bit, right? Don't just walk up cold and meet someone and hand them their book and say, "Will you read this?"
Exactly what Dirk did to me with Paternus, by the way. I had never met the guy before, and then he just walks up to me and just hands me a signed book. And it's like, oh, okay.
He's lying.
I'm only half lying. I had never met you before.
No, we hadn't, but for quite a while online.
Yeah, that's true.
That was that first Bristol Con. I got to meet a whole bunch of cool people. Yeah. That's what first time I met Laura Hughes was at that same con. And I'd been talking to her online forever. Absolutely. But and then once when you ask them, say, I've done my first book, blah 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 blah. I would love to send you a copy, no strings attached, no expectations. I can send you an ebook or a paperback. And I find that I believe, though there's no empirical evidence, that people are more inclined to read it if you send them a physical copy.
Definitely agree with that.
Though some people really just want an ebook. And then once you send it to them, never ask them again. Seriously, just unless they say, "Remind me in 2 months," right? Or something like that. Just don't bother them. Just don't bug them.
Yeah.
It'll come in or it won't. You threw it out there. You just got to let it go. And maybe something will come back. I've had it been a year later that I'll get that suddenly an author will say, "Hey, I read your book, and I really liked it." I'm like, "Wow, I'm amazed. Would you like to?" And thrilled. Would you be interested in giving me a blurb? and they do,
Yeah.
So, and authors are really cool, even, I mean, all of my blurbs, all of my, the blurbs that are actually on the books are from TradPub authors. They can be
Show off.
really cool too.
But yeah, I think the thing to remember is it's really not required. You do not
Don't
need
sweat
to have
it.
blurbs on your book before you launch.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially for ebooks, one of the cool things is if you're self-publishing, you can update your description page later down the line. So when you do get a few blurbs coming in, you can then add them to the page. You can also
you can even add them to the cover and the interior.
You
of the
can.
book.
It's a bit more difficult, but you can still add them to like the paperback covers as well. But yeah, it's certainly not required to have blurbs before you actually launch a book. Jury is out on how much they actually do to help you sell the book in the first place.
Nobody really knows.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really quantifiable. So if I was you, it's not something that I would stress about personally. Get your book launch sorted, and then the blurbs they'll come eventually.
Having said that, I do think that, at least in my experience, there was a lot of value to reaching out to reviewers when I was earlier on in my career and getting their comments, just because it's another source of ostensibly impartial feedback on your storytelling abilities. And it's good to get that, even though you would probably prefer to be getting that at the stage of a beta reader who's reading an early draft of your book. It's still good to put our novel out there and then to get feedback from reviewers saying, this was a 3 star, it failed in these areas, it was good in these areas. As like crushing as that can be, I think it's better to know that, because then for the next book, you're hopefully going to avoid those mistakes the second time. And as a crazy person who reads pretty much every review that I see of my books, it can be painful, but I think it is definitely, for me at least, worthwhile for my own growth and progression and trying to write better books the next time, because there are things I've picked up in those reviews that have allowed me to write much, much better moving forward. A couple of quick tactical things, some websites that I've used in the past when I probably like had, not that I have clout now, but when I had even less clout to reach out to reviewers. Readsy have a really good page on their website called the Best Book Review Blogs of 2022. And essentially they have put like hundreds of blogs down into this searchable list, and you can filter it by genre. You can see the average monthly visits to these review sites, their review requirements, and it's quite useful. I've used it a bit in the past to reach out to some reviewers. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes below, so you can check that out. Another site I've used is, and these aren't sponsored, by the way, although I would love if they chucked us money to buy more fancy microphones.
You've already got one, you don't need more.
Yes, I was actually quickly, as a side, thank you to our patrons, because if my voice sounds better, it's because of you guys. I was able to buy a new microphone for the show.
Hasn't done anything about that accent.
That's right. Speaking of reviews, I found one review of my Fires of the Dead audiobook the other day, and they were like, it's a good story, but it's an unintelligible accent. Only a Brit could understand this. And I narrated it.
That's funny.
So rest in peace. That's what you get for self-producing your own audiobook with an Australian accent. Anyway, another good website for getting reviews is Book Sirens, which is essentially where, I think from memory, you pay like maybe $2 per review or something like that. Again, jury is out on how effective this is, but I personally just found it kind of nice from an ego validation standpoint to be launching my first book and to have a couple of reviews up from people who had read, arcs through Book Sirens before it launched or soon after the launch. I do think that there is some psychological benefit to when people are clicking onto the Amazon page, seeing a couple of early reviews in there, so they know they're not going into complete darkness. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes down below as well. And then, just reaching out to book review blogs and YouTube channels. I think the main thing is to make sure all the fundamentals of your book are good. So do you have a professionally made cover? Is it a great blurb that makes people want to read it? Is it like clearly in the genre that that book reviewer likes to read? I think if you're reaching out with a book that has a very like scrappy homemade cover that doesn't look professional, that's probably going to be the point at the book reviewer that the book reviewer will, you know, not respond to your email at. But if you actually invest in the cover, I think that's probably a better investment of your money rather than paying for, you know, Kirkus Reviews $500 or whatever it is to write a
just don't. It's not worth it.
book. Yeah, so that would be my thoughts on that. I definitely think that for me, at least, I don't know if this goes for all of our readers, seeing like names of authors that I respect reviewing other books helps me a lot. Like Dirk, I think when I read Paternus, it was like a cool thing for me to see that you had the quotes on there from Mark Lawrence and other people. And then, yeah, likewise, Rob, for Never Die, the fact that you had quotes on there too from some big authors as well, that
For me,
moved me along.
I got one from Mark as well.
Yep.
It was really generic.
I'm talking about big
One of
authors, though, not Mark
self-publishing's
Lawrence.
rising
Talking about
stars.
Dirk Ashton.
that's an excellent one. You know, I actually, I do believe that that having like M.R. Carey on a book, who wrote Girl with All the Gifts, and he's also a big comic book writer, and he's written a lot of books. But I do believe that having that can catch the attention of a blogger.
Yes.
The blogger, yes.
If they are completely unfamiliar with you and your books, if they see that a big best-selling author has read it and did like it, then especially for someone who's unknown, then it's like, okay, maybe there's something to this. So it might give you a little leg up with a blogger. Does it with readers? I'm not sure.
I think
does it really help sales? I'm not sure, but I do think that it can give you a little bit of a leg up there.
I think the thing to take into account is in the modern day and age, it's like having a blurb on your cover isn't going to do much because the majority of sales for a self-published author are probably going to come through an ebook. And the cover is only ever actually going to be seen as a thumbnail. So the text is actually going to be too small to read.
Yes.
And I don't think that, I don't know how many people actually click on it to get it big enough to.
The only other thing I think I can think of at the moment is a slight warning. There are websites you can go to that you can pay to put reviews on your Amazon page.
You will get offers out of the blue.
Use them because Amazon regularly flags down these sorts of things and they don't like it and they can just cancel your account for it.
Yeah.
Yes. So make sure if you are if you are going onto a page where it's like, give us money and we will get you reviews, like there is a legitimate way to do it. And the legitimate way for it to do it is they will distribute it to readers to read advanced reader copies of your book. And those readers will then go on Amazon and say, I was provided an advanced reader copy of this book by the publisher. Here is my honest review. Where you get into trouble is where they put the review on Amazon without either reading the book or without disclosing that you gave them a copy as an author. So just be mindful of that. Because there are legitimate sites that can get reviews onto Amazon based on you transacting with them, but there are some restrictions around it. So just be careful with that. A few other quick things as well before we close this out. One thing that took me a while to learn is that there is a difference between positive review reception for a book and positive commercial reception for a book. So there are a lot of books out there that probably don't get amazing reviews from book bloggers, or indeed any reviews from book bloggers at all. And yet they are some of the best-selling books on Amazon. So sometimes the taste of, and you see this with movies as well, that sometimes the taste of critics can be quite heavily diverged from the taste of the audience or the mass market or whatever word you want to call it. So just be careful. I did say before, use the reviews from book bloggers or whatever as a way to make you a better writer. Do also bear in mind that if you follow the reviews of book bloggers, that will make your writing more appealing to book bloggers. So to the extent that that's something that you want, and to the extent that that carries across to general readers, go ahead. But yeah, some things out there don't get huge views. Like, I'm not sure if Cradle, for instance, I can't imagine Will White having reached out to book bloggers and been like, hey, can you give this a review?
I mean, come on, it's Will White. He doesn't need to.
That's
They
true.
reach
I guess
out-
people would review
They
his
reach
stuff
out
anyway.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a bit
he's on a
different.
level all of his own.
But
And you won't
yeah.
and you won't see a blurb on the cover of any of his books.
No, yeah.
Doesn't need him. There's no
Don't think so,
space with
but-
just Will White's written as big as it can get.
Yeah. So yeah, just bear in mind, it is something that probably helps a bit. How much it helps, hard to know. I know in the past, Rob, we have compared some stats from when like popular YouTubers have done reviews of our books and the sales spikes that have come from that. So you can see that there is some benefit to doing it that way. The tricky thing, of course, is it's very hard to measure where your book sales are coming from, because you could have, on any one day, you might have 5 different people writing about your book. How do you know the one that contributed all the sales? So yeah, as we kind of close out this episode, I think in summary, first of all, congratulations on finishing your first book and moving on to your second, because I think that is a big moment of progression and growth. So that is awesome. And then, yeah, when it comes to reviews, you had a couple of things in your question. First of all, like, is it necessary? Not at all. It might help a bit. It's not necessary. Will it get your book more attention? Maybe. We're not too sure. Nothing really concrete or solid from this. Yeah, but I think the main thing is just, yeah, you can reach out to your book reviewers. Don't stress about it. If you do reach out, just be really polite. And remember, you are asking somebody to give up like 10 hours of their time to read something by somebody they don't know. So
10,
20 if you're someone like me.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm so slow.
40 if you're someone like me.
depends how long you write. See,
No.
that's why Fires of the Dead, I only have to ask people to give up like 3 hours to read this. So convenient. Yeah. So thank you so much for your question, Tony. If any of the rest of you listening or watching have questions or comments, please feel free to send those through to wizardswarriorswords@gmail.com. Also, as a quick straw poll amongst our audience, let us know, how much do reviews and, like author quotes impact your purchasing decisions? If you're listening on Spotify, there'll be a poll down below. If you're just on YouTube, you can comment. And if you're listening on other podcast players, you can just email us. Yeah, how much does it impact your willingness to buy and read a new book, especially books that you haven't heard of before? All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That shout out to our Patreons, and especially to our high tier patron, Daniel Henderson. And we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.